I don't know if you heard this. This was Jason Kidd summing up what happened in Game 4 kind of nicely.
It's real simple. We don't have to complicate this. This isn't, surgery. Our group was ready to go. They were ready to celebrate and understand we made a stand. We were desperate, and we got to continue to keep playing that way. Understand they're trying to find to close the door. The hardest thing in this league is to close the door when you have a group that has nothing to lose.
Hardest thing to do is to close the door when you have a group that, the group doesn't want to lose. No doubt. It is hard. Those last 3 outs at Yankee Stadium, hard. We saw the last 4 holes at the U.S. Open, hard. And, of course, the last game on the road in NBA Finals oftentimes are difficult. Tim Hardaway Jr. making a bunch of threes. Granted, it was a blowout. Luka looked incredible. And look, here's the obvious. This is a Captain Obvious statement. If there is some way in which the Mavericks can win tonight, the pressure gets squarely on the Boston Celtics. Right? They can play Porzingis. They can dominate at home. They can be the better team. There's a world there where if the Mavericks can win tonight, and they're fully capable, if the Mavericks can win tonight, even though there's still 2 games left, you don't want to be that first team to lose after being up 3-0. And no one's even forced to Game 7. All right, let's welcome in Ric Bucher from Fox Sports 1 and foxsports.com. And let's start with the NBA Finals. Buke, you tell me, what's the likelihood that Dallas extends the series tonight?
It's a tough one because I believe that Dallas discovered something in going back to Game 3 when they made that 20-2 run in the fourth quarter in terms of how they have to play. I do believe that they've made an adjustment as far as realizing that without Kristaps Porzingis, Boston is relatively small and pounding the paint and crashing the board. They should be winning the boards. Maybe not as definitively as they did in Game 4, but they certainly should be winning the battle of the paint and the boards. But my hesitation to say that they're going to push it to a Game 6 is because all of the role players, along with Kyrie Irving, were simply different players in Dallas, both games in Dallas than they were in Boston. And I don't know that I can count on a Derek Lively to be the same player that he was in Boston that he was in Dallas. I don't know whether Kyrie has gotten past the gremlins and the goblins that he's been that he clearly was still battling. He didn't play 5 guys in Boston. He played 18,000 or whatever the attendance was. So not knowing if those guys are ready to replicate what they did in Dallas, my inclination is to say that Boston gets this done tonight.
What do you make of Kyrie's comments about the Celtics being a cult?
Everything with Kyrie in terms of, look, they have a passionate fan base, a unique fan base, and Kyrie is a different thinker when it comes to basketball and life. And so it doesn't surprise me that those two don't exactly jive. In fact, it was why I was somewhat surprised from the very beginning that Boston was a place that, when he left Cleveland, that was a place that he intended to go to. I always thought that it was an odd fit.
Okay, so help me out when I look at the stories of J.J. Redick. Now he's interviewing with the Lakers, Ken.
Yeah.
Where does that stand?
It's so funny because, I think about what I've heard behind the scenes and how the reporting has gone out and how everybody was saying that Shams was taking a victory lap because we're back to J.J. Redick now. And multiple things can be true. There was a point in this process where JJ, they wanted to see if they could make the JJ thing work. And I think you and I have talked about this. And then it was Like, can we get the assistant coaches, the staff that is necessary for this to work? And they couldn't. And they were, so what other options do we have? And then the whole Dan Hurley thing came up. And so they weren't zeroing in on JJ. I mean, they were at one point, but when this whole thing happened with Dan, it was because they were trying to find another option again. And so the Dan Hurley thing doesn't happen, and now we're back to, well, can we make the J.J. Redick thing work? And it's still going to come down to who are they able to add to his staff in order to make it work. And what I don't know is whether they've made any more progress on that front, whether they have found anybody that is willing to take the job at the prices that they're offering in order to make it work. So I fully believe that they're still exploring the J.J. Redick thing. From what I've been told, they like the way that he thinks, that he's an out-of-the-box thinker, and that's why they're intrigued by him, and it's also why they're not sure that it would work as being the head coach of the Lakers. Because you can be creative and you can look at things in a different way, but you still have to have the rudiments of how the job works and how you work within a culture. And they're not looking to recreate their culture. They're not looking to create a different culture. They're looking to find somebody that they can plug in that will make what they have work. And the attraction to JJ is he comes in with ideas outside of that.
Fair enough. I would agree. There's definitely ideas outside of that. How they execute that would be fascinating. Caitlin Clark with a flagrant foul on Angel Reese, and there's lots of discussion about it. You're the father of a... Huh?
The other way around.
Angel Reese with a flagrant foul on Caitlin Clark. I apologize. What do you think of the emergence of the WNBA, which, look, it's obviously doing much better, but some of it is also our reaction to social media and media, maybe more so than the actual numbers of who's paying attention. But the Caitlin Clark thing is a real deal. What do you think of her versus Angel Reese?
The whole thing has been conflated into something outside of basketball, and I feel like it's been conflated by people that were never paying attention to the WNBA and have never really paid attention to women's basketball, because women's basketball has sort of a physical side to it. It has. I've always felt like the officials and the people running the league don't quite know what to do with where to draw the lines for women when it comes to physicality or going after referees. I'm still going back to Stanford, to Cameron Brink at Stanford, who's yelling "F you" at a referee as she's walking off the court because she's fouled out or she picked up a foul or whatever. And I'm like, that would never happen in men's collegiate basketball.
By the way, I said the exact same thing at the time. Same thing. It would never happen. It's like, this is where I say it's like a caricature of what happens in the men's game, right? Like, the trash talk that happens in the men's game is subtle and kind of under the surface, and you got to read their lips and whatever. Whereas with them, it's so over the top, flamboyant. The criticism of officials, again, is real and happens, but it's more subtle or more whining and complaining. With the women, it is completely over the top, and it's amazing. It's like they're copying. It's honestly, it's a little bit like a Japanese game show, right? Where the game shows are like ours, only so much more dramatic and over the top, kind of cartoonish. That's what it feels like to me.
Yeah, and so when I look at the actual basketball, and part of this, my daughter's a collegiate hooper, and so I've been watching a lot of women's basketball at both levels, collegiate and pro, for probably the last 8-9 years, 10 years maybe, more so than I had ever previously. And so what I see with Caitlin and with Angel, I I don't see any of it as being that extraordinary as far as the actual basketball is concerned. I think you have two very disparate approaches to the game and skills and how they utilize them, and that creates a natural sort of ruckus or conflict. But everything else feels like it's being conflated into something else. And is there a certain amount of jealousy from the league about Caitlin? I think it's more like everybody's making her out to be something, and if I'm a pro and she's coming into my league and I've been here for however long, or I competed against her in college and everybody's making a big deal out of so-and-so, like, does that put a target on her back? Yeah. I mean, that's with anybody. That's with anybody who gets the accolades and the attention that Caitlin is getting. And so, especially when you have somebody who's not physically imposing, what's going to happen? They're going to be physically tested. I mean, I've seen that in every sport, and particularly in basketball, at every level, since I've been covering the game or playing it. And so, the fact that it's being expanded into all of these cultural statements, and the reason Caitlin's being treated the way she is because of the color of her skin or where she's coming from or any of that. I just look. There are degrees of truth in what people are saying, but then they're just taking it and they're expanding it from 2% to the entire story, and that's the issue that I have with whether it's Angel and Caitlin. I think they're just at the center of all this, right? Angel's really just an emblem of the other side, and people literally trying to make this a black and white argument, and I refuse to believe that that's the case.
Awesome stuff. Look, man, I'd love having you join us. I hope the NBA season doesn't end, but we know the drama continues. By the way, I can't let you go. Is Paul George going to walk from the Clippers?
He's certainly willing to. Push comes to shove, Ballmer has the money to pay him. What I don't know is, does he? And he doesn't have a way to replace that talent. So, if he walks, I mean, I would think that Ballmer's not just going to let him walk, that if they did anything, it would be a sign and trade so that they get something back. And I think that that's a very real possibility.
That's fascinating. All right, Buke, we'll talk soon, man. Enjoy the game tonight. Thanks for joining us on Fox Sports Radio.